Evening, everybody. Welcome to the Arcadia Roundtable podcast with myself, Luke, and Darge. We've got quite a bit to talk about this week, so we're going to crack straight into it, I think. Luke, how you doing?
I am good. Yeah, thank you. Been another big week of news and games and all sorts of stuff, so I'm looking forward to speaking on it.
There has been some stuff going on, hasn't there? That's exciting. That's exciting. We started this podcast up. Obviously, we ran it a bit last year. Had like a 6 month break. Started up at the close of the year when all the news was dead, and there has been an unrelenting wave of things to talk about ever since, making it nice and easy to get into some topics without doing any research whatsoever. Yes, suits me just fine. Darge, where you going? How you been?
Yeah, I'm all right. You all right?
Yeah. Of course I am. Something went wrong with your microphone then. I don't want to say it to upset you, but it came through pretty bad to me. Now though,
Came through pretty bad.
Momentarily, but you know,
Okay.
probably it's nothing to stress about. You sound beautiful now. You sound beautiful. You look beautiful. Everybody's beautiful. Everything is great, and we're going to get into some gaming talk. So everyone that is here, thank you for being here with us, as you are so often, so many weeks. We've got quite a lot to talk about. Nintendo have been giving us a little bit to peek at. Sony have been doing some unusual maneuvering. And there's been some games revealed and things like this, so it should be a nice, exciting show to blast through. But before we get into those topics, Darge, has your time on the rooftops given you any opportunity to play some games this week?
I think since the last show, I think I finished Ratchet and Clank. I'm pretty sure I didn't talk about that last week. So finished Ratchet and Clank. And then Tony suggested a game to me after playing the likes of Mouthwashing and that, called My Side. And I saw the the game artwork on Steam and thought, nah, that's not a game for me. But then Satama also suggested it and then gifted me it. So I got into that last night, and yeah, it's an interesting game to say the least. I mean, you know, going back to Ratchet and Clank first, I mean, that's just quality, you know, 3D platforming as far as I'm concerned. Visually, obviously, Luke will agree with me as well. Like, you know, we was talking about, it's a stellar product as far as I'm concerned. Like I said, with the story and them type of games so much, I don't concentrate on the story. You know what I mean? I sort of switch off when I play games like that and just do the platforming and stuff like that. But yeah, it's quality. Like really, and it feels like Insomniac ain't going to give us another one of those for a little while, which is a bit disappointing. And as for My Side, I don't know if either of you two have played it yet, but I'll give you the premise.
Give me the premise.
Yeah,
but,
I'll give you the premise.
I've also seen Darge just before you do, just to say, like, because Tony recommended it to me as well, and I had a look at the Steam artwork, and I know exactly what you're getting it as. It looks. I don't even know the terminology for what it looks like, but
a weeb game, I was told.
On the surface, it definitely is, but it also says on the little Steam reviews overwhelmingly positive, and lets you think that it's got a little bit more about it. So, how far into it are you now?
Well, I don't know, because I think Satama said it's like a 4-hour game, and I feel like I played it for an hour or so last night. And the story pacing with it, like when we spoke before about Mouthwashing and 1000 X Resist and stuff like this, it's got weird sort of pacing. And there was a point where it grabbed me. Well, not grabbed me, but like I was like, oh, okay, like what's, you know, get you to go on a bit, and then it sort of dried up a little bit, so to speak. But the overall premise is, you know, like if you have like a app on your phone, like it's not a dating app, but it's like a companion app sort of thing, and you end up going into this world, and just it's weird. I wouldn't want to give it a full like review or rather recommendation yet until I fully finish it to get the full story beat of it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like I'm not after an hour. It's not like as if I'm not going to go back to it. I will go back to it. It's interesting, you know, and I've you know, after the conversations we had with those games that I've mentioned, like the Mouthwashings and that, this title for Satama and Tony, A Little Misfortune, is another Tony recommendation that I absolutely love. Like, it's such a great story. So Tony said, give this a bang. But like I say, you know, never judge a book by its cover. But the cover for this one, I was like, fucking leave off. But yeah, and that's pretty much all I've been playing. Apart from we did a bit of Space Marines again, which we enjoyed Tuesday night.
Did we?
But
now?
Yeah, I
speak for myself. Thank you, Darge.
Well, I'm sure I caught you smirking a couple of times. But
yeah, I love it.
Yeah, so that's all I've been playing, mate.
That's not a bad little selection, though. So you finished Ratchet and Clank. What's your next big project? You know.
I don't know, you know, because I was going through with Satama, I think, at my Steam library in the backlog, and I've got a few big games there. Like obviously, Stalker 2 is another one, but that's going to take up a chunk of time. But Radders has told me it's in much better nick now than when it launched.
What's wrong with your nipple?
No, I got itchy chest. I wasn't that low. But yeah, I'm not too sure yet. I could probably go for another short-ish, because like the new games are going to start coming soon. I think we've got Spider-Man 2 PC port this month. Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth. Obviously, that's a bit of a pig time-wise, but something else that I'd look to get into. So I ain't too sure yet. Hyperlight Breaker, I was thinking about jumping into a new release, but apparently that's launched in a bit of a 2 and 8 at the minute, and it's in early access. So, honest answer, don't know, but there's loads of options, mate.
There are definitely loads of options. Loads of options. Luke, them games that Darge mentioned, that little list, you got anything you want to add or ask about on those?
So on Ratchet, did you hate Clank as much as Asa hates Clank?
I thought you were going to say as much as he hates me then. He doesn't hate me.
I ain't going to lie. When I finished that game, I nearly sent Asa a very strong personal message with regards to his feelings. I like I said, I didn't really follow the story. Heroes and villains, right? Like, it's not, you know what I mean? You ain't really got to sit down and think about it. But I think, like me and you were saying, Luke, Kit was the one. Like, Kit was the one when, like, she went Baymax. But, like I say, them, the way I see those types of games, like we spoke, like, obviously, Psychonauts. I know a lot of people love Psychonauts and the overall story. Me, problem. Don't really remember the story. Like, do you know what I mean? Because when I play them sort of platformy types, I'm just sort of jumping around, bashing, hitting stuff and stuff like that. I'm usually in a party or something. If it's a game that I want to concentrate on, I'll isolate myself, you know what I mean? Absorb it. Whereas with those, I will, I'll do them in a group and just sort of bang on, you know?
Fair dues. Well, let's move on then to Luke. Last week we spoke and you didn't have that much time to play games, which was unusual for you because you normally bash in loads and loads of them. Has this week been back to business as usual, games all the time?
Sadly not, no. Sadly not. I have played some stuff, but I'm also in kind of like, one of those, I won't say funk, but nothing is particularly grabbing me in terms of gaming at the moment. And I think it's probably just because nothing, there's nothing out that's new. And the backlog stuff, a lot of it is quite it's quite daunting to take on. So you kind of like, you get the avoidance kicks in. I did go back to Star Wars Outlaws because they've released a bunch of DLC for that. Plus, they did a big few patches like to fix various weird gameplay things in that. And I'm quite enjoying that. Like that's quite a nice one to go to because it's open world, but it's not quite Ubisoft open world. It's less guided and less kind of map marker-ish than those games. Like the Assassin's Creeds of the past and Far Cry and such. It's pretty fun. Some of the gameplay changes have been for the better, so that's good. There's a few technical issues still with it that are annoying me. And then a bit more Pikmin 4 when I've had the chance, which I'm still very much enjoying. I think that's the one that's kind of I'm gravitating the most towards at the moment. And I did try and get back into Black Myth Wukong, but I don't know, man. Something about that game just I just really struggle with it. Like it's good, but I don't know. I can't see myself finishing it at the moment. But maybe I'm wrong. But we'll see.
You believe in yourself, Luke. You've got a strong. Yeah. It's not like you've only played 10 minutes and things might change, right? You've done.
Yeah, I've committed. I'm nearly 20 hours in, so I probably should try and just. But I'm also of the belief that if something's not like there are so many, you've only got a finite amount of time to play games, to do anything in the world, and like if something doesn't grab you, I think you should probably just move on from it. But we'll see, because it might grab me when I've beaten this next boss. I also randomly remembered that I've got the Alan Wake 2 Lake House DLC, which I didn't get to, and I'm really tempted by that because it's such a short piece of content that you could finish. It's like a couple of hours, and it's in a game that I really, really love. So I may go back to that as well. So I just, there's a bit of a lull at the moment, but that's okay.
20 hours is like, for the amount of games that there are out, because I can get when you were playing in like secondary school and you had your Saturn and PlayStation and whatever, games will be a little bit more sparse, and you'd get one and you'd be like, I spent money on this, I'm going to put at least 20 hours into it to find out what makes it tick and what makes it good. But these days, it's hard to go beyond 10 minutes if something's not really grabbing you. So you've put in some work there to stick with Wukong this long. Believe in yourself. Move on.
Yeah, I'll try.
You said you're in a little bit of a lull at the moment and not much is kind of grabbing your attention, partly because, like you said, there's the games in your backlog are big and daunting. You got your Alan Wake 2 DLC, but what's the next like big thing on the horizon? The next one that you're going to get into?
I don't know if it's a big thing, but I'm quite looking forward to Eternal Strands, which is coming out, I think, the end of this month. And it's not something I was initially hyped for, but the more I look at it, the more I'm kind of like, okay, this actually looks very interesting from a gameplay perspective, and it's got like a lot of good pedigree in terms of developers. So I think that will be one of the main things that maybe gets me back into it if it's any good. I don't know, obviously, but yeah, I think that comes out at the end of this month. I think it's
I recognize this. It's the one that's got the fancy magic. You can freeze dragons' wings to the trees or whatever.
Yeah,
right.
That's the one. Very sandboxy sort of systems. That's that kind of thing where you can just do weird stuff. So yeah, probably this.
It looks nice, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's UE5 and it's led by a new studio, but the director is Mike Laidlaw, who was at BioWare, and he was creative director on a lot of their big games. So I don't know what it will turn out like, but the mixture of who's developing it, the pedigree, and then how it looks, and the fact that it's very systems based is very interesting to me. So
I don't like the way it looks. It looks like knockoff World of Warcraft to me, art style wise.
It's a bit higher fidelity than that, though, isn't it?
It's higher fidelity, but like I'm talking style more so. The things that I like the look of are the systems that you were talking about, the dynamic combat and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't like the aesthetic particularly.
I don't know. It reminds me more of the Veilguard, funnily enough. I think it's more of a even more cartoonified version of that.
Like World of Warcraft?
No.
Let it go, Asa.
Just fishing for a little bit of agreement, but no, it's just me on that one.
Yeah.
That's fine. Yes, people, we've got a questions, a Q&A box. You can stick things in there. We will get to that at the end of the show and answer your questions or pick up any topics we might have missed if you want to stick those in there. Yeah, Darge.
I was just pointing because Demons just said there, saying that click with me. This game looks a lot like Immortal Phoenix Rising. Is it the Ubisoft?
Yeah, the art
it does
style.
look like that.
It does, yeah, it's quite similar to that. It's a good shout. It's good.
Yeah, it's good.
Also known to look like World of Warcraft.
No,
mate, your hot takes are getting worse.
Oh, I never had one of those. Thank you. Right, so nobody in chat's agreeing with me either. I'm feeling very isolated and alone in that opinion, so this is fine. Let's talk to me about what I've been playing. I've been playing some games.
You've been playing?
Yeah, I've not been playing that much because I've been doing lots of housekeeping on the Discord and things like that, which is a perfect opportunity to talk about the Discord before I do mention my games. It's a really good place now and a little bit more open and like facing people that aren't necessarily members and all the rest of it. So if you've not checked out the Discord, the link in the YouTube description works. Go in there and have a look at it because even the open areas are really good, moving fast and having a lot going on now. So I'd recommend checking that out. We've also got Chronic, who is chronically here and chronically in the Discord and chronically in pain, but a fantastic guy around the community. Has been helping with the moderation and stuff as well. So shout out to him. If you are in there, he'll keep the atmosphere nice, which is what we're after, which is what we got. So yeah, that's a good thing. We've also got the stuff I've been playing. That's what I was talking about. So Darge, we played Space Marine 2 on Tuesday, and you loved it. And
You
I did
did?
too. I did too. I said speak for yourself when you mentioned that earlier, but you're absolutely right. I'm enjoying that. We're having a good playthrough of that. No idea really what's going on in the story beyond the very surface level. Bad artifact, bad guys, shoot everything that moves kind of thing going on. But yeah, still enjoying mushing stuff up and having a good time playing that. I don't even know really like whether we're progressing through the story at any rate or not, and how much of that is left to go. Doesn't really matter to me. I'm just having fun when we do get on it, regardless of not knowing why I'm killing the things that I'm killing.
We're quite far into it. I looked roughly just to get an idea. I think we'll have it done next time.
Do you reckon so? Oh,
Yeah,
that's all right. That's all right. I've had a good time with that. There was another split stream as well on Thursday where I played with Demon Hunter and we finished up Resident Evil 5. So the entirety of that campaign in co-op on split stream. And I couldn't say that it's a good game on any technical level really, but it was fun. If you look at it objectively, there's a lot that's bad. There's a lot that's bad and a lot that doesn't make sense and a lot of decisions that you're like, oh, that's messy. And yeah, it's co-op, right? Which adds so much to loads of games. It's not remotely scary. It's very, very silly, particularly as you progress towards the end. Very difficult to take seriously, but I'm not a serious person most of the time, so it's worked out very well for me. We have finished that. So we'll be moving on to another co-op game on the Thursdays. And I've been playing It Takes Two. Continued playthrough. I've been playing that one with my wife on the couch, actual couch co-op, in a way that people don't do so much anymore. It's been a really nice experience. It's been a lot of fun, but the game is too long. My wife doesn't play a lot of games like I do, and we got to the point in this game where she was like, oh, it's really long. Like, this must be really expensive to make. And she's not wrong. There's like so much that doesn't need to be in there for that to have been finished as a good game. And I'm not holding that against it because, you know, it's like value's value, and I'm sure some people are very happy with the length of it, but there are certain points where I'm like, okay, I'm ready for this to end now. Is it going to? Hell no, it's not. It's just giving me another 7 things to do. But I can't quite get over when I'm playing. I'm just playing it on the Xbox Series X, and I can't quite get over how good it looks, which surprises me. It gets a lot of credit for being a good platform game. It gets a lot of credit for the pace that it gives you, mechanics and all the kind of things like that. But all the material detail and things like that for a game like multi-platform early in the generation as it is, it looks outstanding to me. I love the style of that one. It doesn't look like World of Warcraft. So yeah, I'm enjoying getting through that, but I do want it to end. And I have barely touched Final Fantasy 16 because I've been busy with Discord things. And I tried a little bit of Ocarina of Time. Because I did. Because why not? Them's my games.
We just going to jump in here because when you asked what games we've been playing, I definitely left one off. I don't know if you want to just talk about this for the start. I don't know if everyone else has played it. But is it the Last Berserker or the first Berserker Kazan? The demo? Did anyone get round to having a little flick on that?
Not me.
No.
I've not yet.
Oh, well. I played that as well.
Tell us about it.
Well, I liked it. I only played it briefly for a bit and I actually enjoyed it. But then Eradication kindly told me that apparently the blocking and parrying system's quite broken in the game, and I thought I was really skillful, but it turns out it's quite helpful, and maybe I weren't as skillful as I thought. But you know, it's a Souls-like. It's a good looker. I really like the art style. You know, like the characters are sort of like hand drawn, anime sort of esque looking characters in like a real world. But yeah, like I say, I only briefly played it. And I think obviously I think Rad has said once you get through the introduction area, there's like an option to choose whether to play it easy or normal, which will be like nails on chalkboard for some. But yeah, I mean, I'll be there day one. I want to see what's going to happen with this block and parry mechanic though. But yeah, like I say, just general playing it looks really promising. Is this a Game Pass title?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I feel like it was shown. I feel like it was shown at an Xbox event. I'm not too sure on that, but yeah, first impressions, it was all right. Not Liza P though.
Okay, I'd not heard people saying that the block and the parry is broken. I'd heard people complaining that the dodge is maybe broken. But you reckon maybe the dodge is actually on point and everything else is tuned in your
I found
favor?
the dodge. In fact, on the dodge being broken, if people were saying it's broken in the way that it doesn't work, I would agree. Because there was times I was trying to dodge and I was still getting hit. If that's what people are complaining about, but if you tell me people are saying that it's not that case and it's really helpful, then I'm doing something very wrong. But again, like I said to some people, you know, obviously it's a demo build. It's, you know, hopefully by the time the final product comes out, they've tightened up on these things and it'll be a better experience.
Yeah, so people in chat are confirming that this is a day one on Game Pass thing. I'm pretty sure it was you last week that was saying you wanted more. You were like happy with the slate that Microsoft have got in terms of first party, but you wanted to see the third party stuff still banging in. We've already mentioned today 2 games coming soon that are relatively big as third party ones go. They're not necessarily the biggest of AAAs, but a good standard game you want going in there. It's encouraging, right? With that World of Warcraft clone and this one.
Yeah. Yeah, like obviously the Game Pass conversations, like appealing third party, like we said about Metaphor last year, you know, and to not to most, but to those out there that love Atlas and Persona, this is a big coup, you know what I mean? But for me, it weren't enough. But then obviously last week we spoke about the rumoured first party roadmap, which on its own is 100% worth it. This game would be worth Game Pass. Then, like you say, the what was it called? The other game, Strands. Is it
Eternal
Strands?
Oh, Eternal Strands.
Yeah. Eternal Strands. Yeah, yeah. There's not enough time though, is there? Let's have it right. I ain't got enough time to get through the games.
It's all kicking off in chat. Apparently, it's not on Game Pass. This one, it says Replicant.
Oh,
so we've got contrasting information there. So look it up on the internet if you've got an internet, which you do because you're here. So I don't actually know the answer, but. Right, that's a game. There's lots of other games, but next actually, Luke, I'm going to give you the big one to introduce if you don't mind. So the biggest news this week would be the Switch 2 hardware reveal. What did you take? What did you see? What do you think? What's happening?
Well, I mean, on the hardware reveal, there's nothing much happening. Really, it's just pretty much what we expected, I guess. I think, you know, kind of Nate and other insiders had kind of told us what to expect for this reveal, which was that it would focus on hardware. There wouldn't be any software stuff, and it would kind of just be about the form factor of the device and revealing that there's a Switch 2 coming out. And that's pretty much, with the exception of maybe one or two things, that's exactly what we got, right? So, yeah, typical Nintendo fashion. No build up, really. They just dropped it, said, here's an update from us. And it was a 2.5 minute video about the, you know, kind of a very well produced video, I will say that. Well edited. Kind of evolution of the original Switch into Switch 2 with a tiny bit of gameplay footage of what looks like a new Mario Kart as well. So, I mean, form factor wise, it looks nice. It looks like a big Switch. I'm a bit disappointed they haven't made the sides more ergonomic because it looks like it will still be uncomfortable to hold. It might be a bit better because the thing is bigger. But I think you'll still probably I certainly needed a grip for the Switch to hold it in handheld mode. Because there's just nothing to hold on to otherwise. Yeah, bigger screen, bigger device, magnetic Joy-Cons rather than the rails that were in the original Switch. A dock again. Looks like a Switch. a big Switch? I don't know. What do you think?
I think it looks like a big
Of the
Switch,
form.
which is
Yeah,
what I
it looks
wanted
like a
from
Switch.
it. I'm with you on the ergonomics. The worst part of the Switch for me is that you pick it up and go, oh, this doesn't feel like a thing I actually want to hold for any length of time.
Yeah.
It kind of defeats the point of it being portable. I've said many times that I don't care for portables whatsoever, really. I much rather play either on a big screen or a tiny screen strapped to my eyeballs, depending on what I'm going for, but not really a portable screen and not a small screen. I've been trying to shift my perspective on that recently on account of the fact that I've got like some hours to kill where portable gaming makes more sense for me, and still not actually finding that it particularly suits me very well. So the Switch 2 and the Switch before it, the fact that they're uncomfortable to hold is not a deal breaker for me by any stretch, because I don't really want to hold it. I want to play it on my TV. It might get the occasional little expedition out of the house if I'm desperate, but it's not massively. It looks a little bit more comfortable than the first one. A little bit more comfortable, maybe. It's a bit bigger.
Yeah. The screen size is significantly bigger. As is the unit.
Was it? I was just going to jump in and say, was it Genki who, obviously, I know the rumours around that device being battered around were false, but they look quite accurate now. And I think it was Genki that was showing Joy-Cons that had like at the bottom, like a raised bit, like a grip that goes onto it. So, like looking at it there in the footage is like quite flat with where the trigger is, the hook out there. But I think where the Genki was concerned, there was like a bit that go down the bottom, which is more like a grip part like that. You know what I mean? So it's a shame Nintendo. Yeah, it's a shame Nintendo haven't done that themselves. But I wouldn't be surprised, just based off of that Genki and the CES stuff that was shown, that there will be some form of grip at the bottom. You know what I mean? I think, I'll just quickly give my thoughts on it. Like, as someone who I only owned a Switch for the kids, like, you know what I mean? And that's not like anyone who plays Nintendo games, get offended. That's just how it was. But I'll be buying this thing day one, 100%. Like, I'm genuinely, obviously knowing what's inside of it. I know Nintendo haven't gone into it, but the leaks and stuff like that with regards to it, I feel like it's going to be a significant upgrade. Obviously, I've spoken to Luke about it. I feel like, it's going to be a really good device. Obviously, in that trailer there, you see that there's the Joy-Con on the side acting as a mouse. So with regards to, say, for example, Civ 7 or other games getting ported over, I know we had the conversation last week and it was more like, what Nintendo going to give me? But, it's, they've took something that works. Like I said to Luke earlier today, and we spoke about it, if it ain't broke, don't fix it to a degree. And it just seems like once Nintendo tell us what it's capable of, it will be a genuine successor to the previous device. You know what I mean? And obviously, Nate was saying that you won't see any software at all. And then getting that little glimpse, it's so funny. We joke about it all the time, but of all the things they could have shown, just Mario in a cart, and that's it. Everyone's like, it's Mario Kart 9, so... Yeah, it's also got that backwards compatibility, obviously excluding the Labo, everyone thinks, because it says not fully backwards compatible. But it takes the old cartridges, so that's a tick, for anyone owning existing physical hardware can bring it over. I think, like the conversation me and Luke had earlier is, like, I think Luke was saying more about their hardware manufacturing and everything. I think Nintendo genuinely think this thing's going to be as successful as the previous, if not more so. You know what I mean? It depends what they show us, what it's capable of hardware-wise. But, yeah, and also, I think I said it in our Discord, I think just that trailer alone was probably the most visual, impressive thing Nintendo have done for the last sort of 15 years. That's, in my mind, that's really genuinely, got me excited. You know what I mean? Because the games don't do much for me. But that trailer was quality. So, yeah, looking forward to the Switch 2, big time.
What did you like about the trailer? I don't get it. What do you mean?
I just mean the way it was rendered and cut and everything. It was genuine. The way the Joy-Con, the little plug-in ports popped out and all that.
It was kind of Sony this presentation, right? Like when they have new hardware, they do this kind of presentation for it.
and that's what Nate said, right? Because like if we look at the Series X at the Game Awards, you know what I mean? Obviously they showed like the Forza car and Master Chief and all that, and then they just revealed the box, you know, and then Sony did theirs where it was showing like all the symbols in the like the 3D print sort of casing. That's what you want. You want like a sleek, sexy, get you excited sort of thing, and then obviously they'll follow that up with telling you what's in it. Hopefully, like I said to Luke, do some side by side saying this is, you know, whatever, Tears of the Kingdom running on Switch. This is how it goes, like with the, you know, next gen patches and all that gear. So yeah, it's you know, it'll definitely have marketing power when it comes to marketing it. That Nintendo will be able to sell this thing and show what it can do compared to the last. Just depends if they price it properly.
There's a lot that you just had to touch on and break down. I think I'm going to go with the last thing first, though. For me, when you talk about the trailer being really nice and liking the way that they're showcasing the hardware and all the rest of it, and it being your favorite thing Nintendo have done in that capacity, for me, I do not give a fuck. And I don't mean that like to discount what you're saying and your opinion of it, but for me, the way that something is marketed is the least important part of anything for me. They could completely flop this trailer and just like, here it is on a cardboard box. If the product turns out good, I'm happy with that. If I was a sucker for seeing like sexy angles of the device, then I'd be an Apple fan, and I'm not.
Yeah.
So.
But it's like when you want the cat to come in, you know what I mean? And you get the old cat food and sort of go, yeah, I look, and they offer it up and the cat comes, you know what I mean?
You're the cat in this scenario, right?
The carrot's been dangled for me. I'm like a magpie. I'm like, following it.
I'm independent. I'll go get my own dinner. Thanks very much. Luke, so there's a few things there. You can speak on that as well, whether it means a lot to you that they've managed to present it well in that way, the hardware. But Darge also mentioned there, we'll go back to nearer the beginning of what he said. He also mentioned that he's excited about it from a hardware perspective as well, which is quite interesting. I've got things to say on that too, but what about you? What do you reckon on that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for it from a hardware perspective because it is a very significant leap over the original Switch. Very significant. Now that wasn't that difficult really, because the Switch was an underclocked Tegra X1. It was very weak, even by the standards of the day.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that hard to do that, but it's still exciting to know that it will be a very, very, very much more capable piece of hardware with a modern architecture and some really cool modern hardware software features from NVIDIA. And I'm not really excited about that from a third-party perspective because I'm not going to be playing third-party games on the hardware, but I am excited to see what Nintendo themselves do with it. And it's not as if I expect them to start putting out things that look like, The Last of Us Part 2 or whatever, but the capability is there that they can really push this hardware and make stuff look very nice and have it be a very good, a much nicer place to play Nintendo games than the current Switch is, where, the developers have really butted up against it and done very well, but butted up against the capabilities of that system where you're getting significant sacrifices in terms of usually resolution. That's the main one, on image quality. Frame rate is usually pretty good across everything, but resolution is just not good at all. Image quality is just not good, and it's a significant sacrifice. So that's what I'm excited for from a hardware perspective.
That's why I was wondering, because Darge mentioned the hardware, and I listen to that and I look at it and I go, actually, from a hardware perspective, it's the exclusive games that make it appealing, right? Which is relevant as when you look at it as kind of a paradigm against what the certain other console manufacturers and so on might be doing. You look at this Nintendo Switch hardware, and if it did not have exclusive games, then I would have no interest in buying it whatsoever. And like you, Luke, though, like Nintendo have done good things with the hardware that they've got, but I've been begging for them to release something new for a long time so that I can play the Switch games that already exist in a better format, but let alone like the new stuff that they can do with it. Because you look at Mario Kart 8 and it runs at a pretty comfortable 60 frames per second on the hardware that they've got, but it is relatively simplistic, and the art style just works for it. Nintendo are very, very talented at bringing out stuff that looks visually appealing despite not necessarily being technically marvelous. Or maybe it is technically marvelous when it's running like that on the hardware that it's got, but you know what I mean. So I'm excited for the hardware, as you two both have said, but purely because of the difference in games that it can offer me. I've never been a fan of like when Sony and Microsoft kind of converged on the same technology for the PlayStation 4, Xbox One era, where they were really technically similar in their capabilities. That made me less interested in owning both, because there was less purpose in owning both. I was more excited, and this makes me an idiot, I was more excited by Kinect than by anything else in those consoles, because I already had a PC that could do everything those consoles could do. The Switch manages to take that little angle. It can't necessarily deliver anything that my PC can't do, but Nintendo will prop it up with exclusive games. Maybe there's some lessons to be learnt there. I don't know.
It'll be interesting for sure, like, to see this thing. And I know we all sit here and go, yeah, third party, but it's portable, right? So if you can cross progression in certain titles over to the Switch, plus you've got the added benefit of those Switch exclusives, it ticks boxes. And that's why, like, my final point would be price. Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how they price this thing, because, you know, the handheld market, if you take like the Steam Deck, for example, it's like, is the cheapest one £3.5 or 400 quid or something like that, and then you get quite like good performance with your Steam library. But then you got the Mario, and I want to see this thing running. I want to see what it does. Obviously, you know, it's getting them Nintendo games, and then on the third party side, I know you sort of go, yeah, I'm not worried about third party, but it's the portability. Like, if there's a console gamer out there who plays just on Xbox or PlayStation, if they've got the option to buy a Switch as well, get those Mario games and take their other games with them, do you know what I mean? Like, with a cross progression, it's another tick. Plus the performance. This is what I mean. I literally can't wait to see how this thing performs. You know, and because Nintendo, like we say, with a hardware, it's always been trolled a little bit, isn't it? You know, barely making 30 FPS in Zelda, you know, and this, that, and the other. Whereas this is genuinely going to be a performance leap, you know. And then when we say about those third parties, if they play half, like, bearing in mind it's a tiny screen, you know, if they play half decent with DLSS and everything else implemented, it's just another box tick for Nintendo. You know, I just want to see this thing running now.
It's definitely the third-party games and the bigger ones, because they're kind of cinematic and the AAAs and all of that kind of thing. I totally appreciate that other people do like that. For me, snowball's chance in hell that I'd be playing Indiana Jones on a Switch 2 in Portal mode.
No. You know, I'm talking more like the Fortnites, and you can cross-progress that stuff over. You know, like, if you're a console gamer on Xbox or PlayStation, you've got a digital library invested there, but them live service games, you can take them over to a Switch and have the added benefit of the Nintendo exclusives. Plus, you can get that third party over without it running like dog shit. You know what I mean? It's just another pro marketing tool. So, yeah, the reveal was great. I'm there day one, and I just want to know more now. You know.
So Fortnite. That snowball's got to be somewhere even hotter than hell. No way for me. But you're not wrong. I'm not saying that you're wrong. There are people that would go for that.
I'm talking about the mass. I'm talking about the masses. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, speaking of the masses, Luke, there's a lot of people speculating, analysts talking about it, all the usual kind of stuff about how well this device will do, because the Switch has been a phenomenon, right? It sold freaking amazingly well. It's had a little bit of a boost perhaps from a global pandemic that saw the whole of the gaming industry get a pretty significant boost for a couple of years. It had a nice little wave of virus to ride with this Animal Crossing and all the rest of it. What would Nintendo need to do to see kind of similar levels of success, or even beat the first Switch with this thing?
I think it'll just come down to software, compelling software. There's no new gimmick here, really. I mean, there's maybe the Joy-Con mouse stuff, which we can touch on, I guess. But it's a bigger Switch, and like any other console that has a sequel, especially these days, it tends just to be that the consoles are more performant, and obviously there's unique software only available for that console, and that's what drives the sales and the migration over. It will be very interesting to see how they do that, because obviously for many of their games, particularly Mario Kart as an example, they would be absolutely crackers, I think, not to make that cross-gen, because they've got 140 million Switches out there, and Mario Kart on Switch has sold something like 68 million copies or something like that, something absolutely ludicrous. So there will be cross-generation games from Nintendo, which is going to be very interesting from multiple perspectives. But I think that's the way that they will drive it being a success. And I think one of the things that Nintendo has going for them now is that obviously the marketing of this is so much simpler than the Wii U was, which was an absolute catastrophe. It's very clearly a successor to the Switch. It's the next version of the Switch. So it's very easy to sell that rather than the Wii U, which was just, your hardcore knew what that was, but nobody else did, basically. And also the Wii U had a very poor initial launch of software. There was nothing really special for that system, nothing that interesting. And by the time they got the stuff out there like Mario Kart 8, they just had such a poor install base that and kind of had already almost given up a little bit on it and were just focusing on, the Switch, what would become the Switch. So I think it's just, you have exclusive hardware, have it be backwards compatible, and you will convince people over time to migrate over. Whether it will sell as much or more as the original Switch is, I don't know, but it will be so I think the Wii sold like 102 million units or something like that. I'd expect the Switch 2 to sell more than that. Maybe not as much as the original Switch, but more than that. So
just quick one, lads. How long do you reckon until they sort of quote unquote stop supporting the original Switch and try and get you to migrate over? Bearing in mind that you can bring all your physical games with you. What do you reckon they do? 18 months, 2 years?
Yeah, maybe something like 18 months, something like I don't know, because I mean part of this also depends on their own developers, I guess, and their own strategy in terms of they may want to create experiences that just aren't, it's not possible to downscale them to the Switch and get them to release in a nice state. They may not do that, but they may do. And I think they'll follow the track that maybe Sony did this generation, where they said, okay, there are cross-gen games, but there are also games over here that are exclusive to this platform. So, and kind of over time, and Xbox have done this as well, over time, just steadily increase the amount that are this generation only and really restrict the cross-generational stuff. And I think in many ways, Nintendo games, exclusive Nintendo games, are more of a mover for audiences than, say, a Sony or an Xbox game, right? So like a Spider-Man 2, or just as an example, will get people, some, and most certainly got some people to move across, but I don't think it's as compelling for that audience as, say, a 3D Mario game would be to get people to move over. I think that has much more pull in Nintendo world than those kind of games. So they'll support it for a while because they have to, because you've got such a good install base. It'd be silly not to, but I don't know how long.
Next Animal Crossing, Switch 2 exclusive.
Just too technically advanced for the Switch.
That's the one that's kind of difficult. That audience is like, because the Animal Crossing audience, that game blew up like crazy on the Switch, and it's also a group that don't care about hardware very much. Like, not to group them too severely, you know what I mean? But there's a lot of people there that will be hard pushed to convince that they need new hardware to play a new game. But in terms of how Nintendo handle the dropping support and all the rest of it, they're not beholden to communicate these things with an audience in the same way that Microsoft and to a lesser extent Sony seem to feel they need to. Nintendo don't need to come out and tell people what they're going to support. They don't need to make a wholesale global decision for all of their studios on what they can support. They can look at each game, what the demands for that game are, and put them where appropriate for a pretty long time, I would say. So hopefully we'll end up with some stuff that is demanding and needs that CPU boost to do more in the game, give us more physics, give us more shit going on. Hopefully. The other thing, last angle I have for the Switch 2 thing is I've seen across media and some of the at least once respectable sites like Eurogamer and people like that have been putting forwards a stance that it's disappointing that Nintendo don't have a fresh new gimmick and all the rest of it, that they have played it as a Switch 2, a successor that takes the capabilities of the Switch and just brings them forwards a little bit rather than doing something eccentric and wacky. Luke, thoughts on that? Is there a world where Nintendo do something absolutely crazy and you like it more than what they're doing now, or what's going on with that? Is it just edgy contrarian journalism?
Yeah, I get some of the sentiment that has occurred around that, because Nintendo they've always been quite willing to break convention in terms of what their next piece of hardware looks like. But that was spearheaded very much by Satoru Iwata, who is obviously not here anymore, rest in peace. And after the Wii U, I think that really spooked them in terms of what they will do going forward with their hardware. It's very difficult in a lot of ways to release a piece of hardware that is so completely different from the prior piece of hardware, not just in terms of form factor or what it does or whatever, but in terms of naming convention as well, because they've always named their consoles different things. Like Sony have the PlayStation, Xbox have the Xbox, and Nintendo would go, oh yeah, well, we've got the GameCube and now we're making a Wii. And everybody, that like the dissemination of understanding what that is for standard consumers is quite strange. So I don't know why, I don't know what people were expecting with the Switch successor for Nintendo to look at 140 whatever million units that they've sold and just go, no, we're going to abandon that. We're going to come up with some brand new concept, and we'll start again. Basically, start afresh. Like, it's just madness.
Yeah.
So, and from a personal perspective, I have no real desire for it, because at this point, what other hardware gimmick could you possibly introduce that would be interesting?
Something wet
in terms of something.
Why
wet.
take the gamble though?
Smelling vision.
No.
So yeah, I just I don't know what people are expecting really, and it's not to say that Nintendo might not do something wacky in the future, but I think it was always going to be the case after the success of the Switch that they were going to continue with that, and it was just going to be a bigger and better version of what they've already made. And personally, I've got no issue with that, because I think the Switch as a gimmick is great. It's it's a fantastic thing. It just needs to be more capable to give us better stuff, and it is. So,
agreed.
Darge, anything else on the Switch?
Oh no, me and Luke spoke about earlier about the crazy Nintendo. I just want them to get crazy. If you look at some of their best-selling hardware, it's all portable. You know what I mean? Like Game Boys and DSs and. And then like Gamsley's just said there in the chat, 150 million people roughly have got a Switch. And like I said earlier at the start, if it ain't broke, don't try and fix it, And if you look at the sales for some of these, N64s and GameCubes, I had a GameCube, do you know what I mean? But if you look at the sales, you're Nintendo. Why are you going to go, right, we've got this thing here that's 150 million. I'll tell you what, let's roll the dice again and go for one of them wacky nipple analog stick turnouts that we did before. Like, they're not, like I say, I keep saying it, if it ain't broke, don't try and fix it. That hardware-wise, obviously, until we see it, it looks like they've made the right investments with the hardware to push what they can do. So it feels like the right successful, like from the Game Boy to I can't remember what order they go in, the colour, and then this, that, and the other, but this is a significant leap. So, Yeah, I see. Them what you were saying, them articles, and some people saying, they long for an N64 again. I don't personally. If they were doing an N64 or Wii, the Wii was the funniest one because everyone was like, "Oh, the Wii was great, wasn't it?" And I was like, "No, I didn't like the Wii personally. This thing's more appealing to me." But I'm not everyone. So yeah, I think they should continue doing what they're doing, and and we'll see what happens.
That's cool because just the idea of corporations chasing sensible ideas brings us nicely onto a God of War live service game, I think. So let's move this topic along. Darge, you've read this article. Luke, you were sharing this around as well, so I know you know a bit about it, but I asked you on the Switch, so I'm going to ask Darge on this one. Darge, what is going on at Sony headquarters? What's happened this week?
I mean, I didn't really know about this, and I remember seeing in my Twitter feed, certain people that like to laugh at other corporations that they don't support and this, that, and the other. And I see Bend and Bluepoint being thrown around, and then I saw God of War live service, and the way I look at it is like, obviously when Jim Ryan was in, there was a big live service push, right? That was like his MO was like, we're going for it. So if this thing's been cancelled now, it's no surprise to me. Now Okie Koki and Herman Holster in there, they're going to have to shift strategy, especially after Concord. Like, you know what I mean? So the fact that this news has come out isn't really surprising to me. I think it said like that they're going to concentrate on multiplayer still and single player experiences. Well, that's what they're good at, and with the live service, they're one for one. Like I said, with Helldivers and Concord. So, I mean, God of War live service is carnage. That just screams, what's a really good IP that we've got? And you go, yeah, God of War. And they go, yes, make it live service. Like, well, adds that don't matter. There's a budget. Crack on. To me, this just feels like it's still part of the aftermath of Jim Ryan getting fucking put in the bin. And I don't see any fire in the offices, so to speak. I think it's just literally not a good idea.
I mean, so Bend were working on a new IP that was supposed to be live service, but the last game that Bend released was like days gone, freaking ages ago. So it should have been a pretty mature game by this point in time. But the one that gets me, that everyone is bemused by, is Bluepoint. Previously, had only done remakes essentially, and were really damn talented at doing really well polished remakes of like Demon Souls and things like that. So maybe there's ambition in that studio to do something of their own creative vision. Maybe you keep them working on stuff that that they're really good at. But what Sony went for with them was a God of War live service, and I can look at the cancelled Last of Us live service game, and I can go, yeah, a live service game would fit pretty well in that universe. You got all of these characters and world where you could tell all kinds of stories about all kinds of people, and it's ripe for doing whatever the hell you want. They've got I don't actually know the status of it, if it's been cancelled yet or not, but there was a Horizon live service game with Nexon as well, right? And I can look at Horizon and go, well, Aloy's obviously a focal character in the games that you play, but the world is ripe for live service potentially, right? I'm not saying it's what I want, but you can see the stories, you can see the adventures, you can see the potential for all of these various like tribes and people surviving in a post-apocalyptic world. Fine, that works. God of War is so centered on the gods that I can't fathom what they were thinking. Like, what are you even going to play as in a God of War game? You got Norse mythology. What, you're going to play the various personalities of that squirrel by the tree or whatever it was? I don't get what they were even going for. I can't see the vision. So I don't know, Luke. What am I missing? What were they aiming for? What was God of War live service going to be?
I mean, I don't know. To be frank, I've got absolutely no clue. It's a collection. Bluepoint God of War live service is a collection of words that I don't think should ever be uttered again. and should have never been uttered in the first place.
No.
I think I don't want to get into spoilers about how Ragnarok ends, but I think I see an angle of what it could have been, because I think people think that when they said live service, they meant possibly multiplayer. I don't think it would have been a multiplayer game. I think it would have been something more akin to, say, Assassin's Creed, right? Which is a live service game. It's single player, but it is a live service game. It's supported with seasonal content and microtransactions and all that stuff, and evolve. You know, there's evolving stories in there. So I think that's probably what the game may have been. Nonetheless, I don't think anybody really wanted that at all. And the problem, as you said, is that God of War as a universe really revolves around. It's not even the gods; it revolves around Kratos and Atreus. Like that's what it revolves around. So if you don't have those characters in it, I don't think it's particularly interesting. Like, it's a really cool world and the world building is amazing, but it's all centered around two characters now. Again, I don't want to get to spoilers on Ragnarok, but I can see maybe the direction that they were going to go in. But I just, I fundamentally don't understand why that decision was made to put a very talented developer that has cut their teeth on making these really, really high quality AAA remakes, you know, really evolving the original games from a visual sound design perspective, bringing them to modern audiences. Why not the original content element? Because I'm sure Bluepoint wanted to do something like that, but to go, okay, you know, we're going to put you on this franchise, but we need it live servicey. I mean, it's just baffling to me. I know that Bluepoint did work on Ragnarok, so they worked on Ragnarok after they finished Demon's Souls until Ragnarok released, so for a couple of years. And that made sense, really, because they're a really talented studio, and obviously they helped to ship that game out the door. So, and obviously it probably would have helped them in terms of developing original quote-unquote content as well. And I could see why they would be put on making something God of War-y. That makes sense if it's a spin-off game. But what doesn't make sense is the fact that it was going to be live service. And I'm really curious to know why it was cancelled. Like, because I mean, it must just be that it was just not good enough, right? It was, yeah, it must be. Or that they looked at it and went, we don't know how we're going to monetize this properly. I think that was a rumor about The Last of Us, you know, the Factions game, for example. You know, how do we monetize this in a way that's going to be successful? Yeah, I don't get it. I just think it's just mad.
It just like just got an article up here because I forgot some of these as well. Like, and it just smells of Jim Ryan and the big live service push. You know, some that I forgot about was that Spider-Man's The Great Web that was in the Insomniac leak. That was one. You know, it's like as if Jim went, I tell you what are some of these IPs that we got? Let's go live service. There's a Twisted Metal game, a Horizon Online. There's been, and obviously The Last of Us. And it just feels like probably Sony management now looked at it and went, what the fuck are we doing? Like, you know, Helldivers, like we've said before, you know, co-op, you know, shooter, it'd probably do all right? And then you've got the hero shooter that's going to be 40 quid up against all the other hero shooters that are free. You know, they fucked themselves with that one. And then the rest of it, they're like, what are we doing? You know, so after seeing that list of all the others that have already canned, you know, it's not. I mean, there's that London studio. You remember the London studio one when Jim was having all the photos done with them, and they was making a live service game, and then he fucking shut them down. I feel like this is still the arse end of Jim Ryan's reign that's just being fucking flushed out now.
Yeah, I think it feels like I think the thing that I'm really frustrated about is not that necessarily that the games have been cancelled, because clearly they weren't hitting the quality mark internally that Sony wanted. And it's not as if, I mean, Bend's is slightly different. We can talk about Bend's, but certainly Bluepoint, it's just madness that they were put on this in the first place, and that's what they were expected to make. It's the thing that really frustrates me is that now there's 2, 3, 4 years of time that's been lost where these, because Bend and Bluepoint are unlikely to have been working on other projects at the same time.
Yep.
So conceivably, they won't have games out this entire generation. Again, Bluepoint already had one; they had Demon's Souls at launch, but Bend will go another generation without having a game out. And for a studio that I know Days Gone critically didn't do as well as Sony would have liked, but the player sentiment around that game, including my own player sentiment, it was a very good game. I really enjoyed it. Like, the writing is not great, but a lot of that game is very good. And it's just a shame that we're probably not, we're not going to get anything from Ben now until the PlayStation 6, which is just total madness. And it's all because, this initiative that happened 4 years ago said, okay, let's do service stuff and let's put the majority of our first party on it. And that's taken these teams away from doing something within their core competencies, which is, developing high quality single player games.
Yeah.
So that's the most frustrating thing. Not that we're not going to get the games. I don't really care about that. It's just that now we're not going to get anything for
the opportunity cost of Sony's decisions. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be a light generation. Excuse me, for Sony now. Like you say, going into this gen with Jim, obviously you got the ball rolling on all this gear, and then it's all just been squashed. So, like you say, obviously some of these teams, like Naughty Dog, and this, that, and the other, got multiple sort of studios within them, where they'd have multiple things going.
Yeah.
But on the generation on a whole, I think when we look back at the PS5, there won't be a lot, I don't think, because of this. Because there's 12 projects there. Some see the light of day, Helldivers, Concord for about fucking 5 minutes. But, I think when you look back here, it'll be a bit light. It'll be a bit light on first party stuff, definitely. And it's because of Jim Ryan.
Yeah. I mean, Oh, no, go on, Asa. Go on.
No, I was going to ask. So obviously they announced that they had 11 live service games coming along. We've seen multiple of them fall by the wayside now, but they've still got Fair Games. They've still got Marathon. They've still got supposedly this Gummy Bears thing. Bungie's other game that they've now farmed off to another Sony studio. They have still got live service games coming. They've still got GaaS coming. Is it reasonable to think maybe the surviving games will turn out good, or are these going to be cancelled next week?
Yeah.
Well, there's that Fair Games, and that's one that's in the works. But you don't have to see the light of day, do you?
I think. No, go on, Darge.
I was going to say that Fair Games was, it was announced 23. It was announced in May 23. What's saying we don't get to the end of this year and they go, yeah, no, that's cancelled. That ain't worked out. I don't know. It's a bit weird.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to tell. It's hard to tell whether these games will be good or whether they'll be cancelled. I think Fair Games. I feel like if they weren't happy with it, it would have been cancelled by now, because it's been in development for a long time, and they clearly trust Jade Raymond's team, and her team was set up to make social games, multiplayer games, service games. So I feel like that's got a better chance than some, but that she's, they're going to be under pressure. Marathon, who knows? Looks on paper like it could be very good, but the impressions of the early playtests were that it was not. I think there was a second round that came out sometime after those that said, oh, it's actually taking shape. But who knows? Obviously, that's, again, a lot of pressure for Bungie, along with all the other stuff. The Gummy Bears one, that may be a good game, it may be not.
What's this Gummy Bears one? I ain't got a clue.
The Gummy Bears one is the sort of prior head of
Brothers MOBA, right?
Yeah, the prior head of COD called Jason Blundell appears to have a new studio within PlayStation that's headed by him, but it's staffed by Bungie developers or ex-Bungie developers because they're for this new unnamed development studio, and they're making a game that's like a Smash MOBA sort of a Smash Brothers X MOBA game.
I'm looking forward to it. It sounds brilliant.
Yeah,
it sounds like
terrific.
carnage.
Yeah, it sounds terrific. So, and that may, who knows, that may be, randomly very successful. But personally, I cannot think of anything that interests me less than that game.
No.
So
I'm actually sincere. I'm quite interested in seeing what that is. I'm not.
Well, that's more power to you.
Yeah.
More power.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, the Smash element interests me a bit.
Yeah.
It's the MOBA element that does not.
But I'm desperate for a MOBA that I can get into. Like,
Well,
I
this
don't
might be
like
it,
click
yeah.
to move League of Legends. So give me something that takes a MOBA and tries to make it more accessible, like a Smash game.
Yeah.
Maybe you're onto something. Maybe. Obviously, too early to say for sure. Do you know what irks me about this whole thing with Sony?
Go on.
What really irks me is if you're going to get these studios, you're going to get Bend, you're going to get Bluepoint, and you're going to waste their time. You might as well have wasted their time shitting out a couple of VR games for me. Like, wow, would have been a disaster. But this is already a disaster. At least then I would have been happy. It would have been one person that was pleased. The most important person.
So, are we all in agreement then? Because Sony have got a light first-party offerings coming forward. If GTA 6 goes 2026, Death Stranding 2 is going to be Game of the Year.
Oh, that was obvious anyway. Even if GTA 6 releases this year.
Without Jeff and his bias.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because we've still got like big games coming from a first-party perspective. It's just not loaded year after year. They've got Yotai, they've got DS2, which is, not first-party, but of that ilk. Intergalactic, obviously, we don't know what Sony Santa Monica are making, but we know Cory Barlog's leading it, and there's absolutely no way that that's going to be service because they tried that before Santa Monica way back when after they finished Ascension, and the studio was nearly closed down because of it. So Wolverine, all that stuff. So there is big stuff coming, but it just feels like it's such a missed opportunity to have more big stuff coming. I think Naughty Dog as well were rumored to be working on. In fact, they confirmed they had multiple single player experiences in the work. One is probably going to be a smaller thing, but so it's just very frustrating to see so many hours and so much time wasted because of such incomprehensible management decisions. Principally, obviously, from Uncle Jim before he swiftly went out the door and said, right, my job's done, and sold all the shares. So, frustrating.
I remember when he did leave, saying that like his legacy would be felt a couple of years after he's gone, and we're feeling it now, right? we're feeling it now.
We're definitely feeling it.
He weren't wrong, was he?
Right. Let's move on to a game. There's been a game announced this week, a particular game. I'm sure there's been loads of stuff announced this week, but I can't keep up with all of it. The one that's caught our attention, I would say, Luke, Blood of the Dawnwalker.
Yeah, cool, isn't it?
Don't know, I haven't seen it yet.
We should look at it. It's they did a reveal of this. I think it was Monday. Could be wrong there, but I think
one of them
Monday.
weekdays. Yeah.
Part of the week, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and so this is a game made by a new development studio in Poland called Rebel Wolves, and it is of particular note because that team is staffed of a lot of former CDPR developers, and the director was actually the director on The Witcher 3, Wild Hunt, and I think the production director or quest director of Cyberpunk. So there's a lot of pedigree in the studio. So that I heard about this like quite some time ago because they kind of announced that they were working on something maybe a year or two ago, but nobody really knew what it was up until now. And they released this CG trailer of about 4 minutes, kind of background tone, general story overview to some extent. world building, that sort of stuff. There's a tiny bit of gameplay footage right at the end, but they've promised that a full gameplay reveal is coming in the summer, so probably Summer Game Fest. And it's really cool. It's rare that you get big AAA RPGs that are new IP these days, so that's nice. It's vampires, which I'm a really big fan of, because I don't feel like we get many vampire games, and when we do, or at least the last real big vampire game we got, did not go well. Redfall, looking at you. So it's nice that we've got something like this, and I think from everything they've talked about with it, they're trying to do some pretty interesting, unique stuff in terms of gameplay and narrative building blocks and all of that stuff. So I think it's definitely one to keep your eye on. It looks like it's got a lot of investment as well. Bandai Namco are publishing it, so there's clearly some optimism around this. But yeah, what do you guys think? Although AC, you've not seen it, so maybe you're watching it for the first time.
I think I'm
now.
a terrible person for missing Gunstar's super chat earlier in the show, and he's just said that he's going to clean his air fryer, so probably won't catch that. I called it now. Gunstar, I'm sorry about that. Thank you very much for the super chat. You've given us some of those before as well, so it is a big help. This is looping right back to the Switch 2. He said that the Switch 2 is an evolution. If he thinks people expect something revolutionary from Nintendo, it's not going to hit as hard as people think, in his opinion. So, fair dues, and I feel terrible for missing it while we were talking about that. I'm a terrible, terrible host, but also probably the best host in the universe. Everyone should stick and watch this show. So, sorry, Luke, you were talking about Dawnwalker. What do I think about it? CG trailers obviously don't tell you too much about what you're going to be playing, but you can see the vibes are straight from The Witcher. The setting may be a little different. You've got some vampires and such, but it's very familiar. You could look at this and go, oh yeah, that's CD Projekt Red almost. And that's exciting in itself, because they've made some great games, so their talent can make some great games elsewhere. They've got the financial backing. Presumably this director that you were talking about is probably the connection that Bandai Namco have, because they published The Witcher 3 as well. So I'd say there's a lot of confidence behind this one, a lot of excitement that is warranted. That's, obviously we need to see more, but it's on the radar very much so. What about you, Darge?
Yeah, just watching it there. I mean, Chris Grinnell and Luke both sent me, and I still didn't get around to watching it. But from what Chris and Luke have both said to me, you know, Witcher 3, CDPR, vampires. Yeah, looking at the trailer, it looks alright. Like, obviously, until you see the gameplay, it's just a CG trailer. So, yeah, I'll wait until I see the gameplay in the summer. I'm sure it'll look the bollocks, and it'll be another one that I'll add to my backlog that's ever growing. But yeah, not too much to say in way of reviewing the CG trailer. Obviously, Luke knows his onions. You know what I mean? Like he knows what. So yeah, I'll just wait until we see more.
See more. Yeah. Anything else? Are there any topics that we've missed before we go on to the questions from people? Sorry, I can't hear someone
really
say there's
bad
certain things.
There's a really bad impression of me, by the way.
It wasn't entirely an impression.
Made me sound like fucking Mr. Bean.
Oh wait, something's happening. It wasn't an impression of you, Seymour. There's certain words, they're like trigger phrases for me. You say Seymour, I have to do Seymour's mum from The Simpsons. Agnes, yeah, there we go. If people like talk about having more on something, then like morons, just I can't not hear that you're calling me a moron. There's just things like that. You'll get used to them, Dad. You'll get used to them. It'll be fine. But we have to read, because I failed last time and I'm not going to fail this time, but I am failing because I'm clicking around like a complete bellend that doesn't know how to use a PC. Why can't I find it? Here we go. It's another Gunstar. We don't deserve your second super chat, but thank you for it. It's just testing, and I think that counts as passing the test, because I eventually fumbled and found the super chat. So thank you again for the super chat that I do not deserve, because I am a mug. So what were we talking about?
I don't know. I thought I'd just bring up here Harry Go Locky in the chat. A rare Harry hot take. CDPR are enormously overrated, and Witcher 3 is a very okay-ish game.
Oh, it's controversial. A lot of people love it.
I just replied back to him though and just said I'd have been with him had it not been for Cyberpunk. But I'm Witcher 3, like I put a lot of time into it. I got quite far, but I haven't finished it. But I thought it was alright. I thought it was a good game, Witcher.
I think that's what he's saying. It was just all right. So you're agreeing with Harry there. I thought it was kind of brilliant, but I did struggle with the length of it.
In relation to the overrated CDPR, though, I put Cyberpunk because that's just not overrated at all. That's just incredible, that game, in my opinion.
Luke, CDPR, do you love them? Are they overrated? What's going on?
I do love them. I don't think they're overrated. Harry always with his hot takes. They're always interesting. Yeah, I don't think they're overrated. I don't think Cyberpunk is as good as The Witcher 3, which a lot of people may disagree with me on that, because I think The Witcher 3 is brilliant. And it has its flaws, obviously, but I think they're counteracted by everything else in the game being top tier. Cyberpunk, the base game is good, solid. I'd say that's maybe overrated from my perspective, but Phantom Liberty is incredible. And no, I think CDPR are great. I think they're one of the best developers out there. They've not had a big miss yet, which they might do, but not yet.
Yeah, he's just said there in the chat. He's tried Witcher 3 multiple times and it's fine. But it's one of those games that never got his hooks into me. Yeah, I found that though. I tried it a few times and couldn't get it. And then there was that one time where I fucking really enjoyed it. Done like about 3/4 of it, and then like everything, I dropped it. But that's a me problem.
It's kind of interesting that you say that they haven't missed yet, because I think a lot of people considered Cyberpunk to be their big miss at the point that it launched.
Yeah, in terms of the quality standard or the technical state of the game, I think it's undeniable that they missed heavily, but I don't think they missed in terms of the game once it was fixed. Do you know what I mean? Like underneath the issues, the game there was good. I think it's maybe a tad overrated by some. I think it's like better than The Witcher 3, that's nonsense, isn't it? But but you know, they haven't made a bad game yet. Or at least the modern CDPR has not made a bad game yet, even if Cyberpunk was a terrible state on some platforms when it launched.
Fair. I reckon we've probably covered the topics that we need to, so we can go on to our questions from the community now. Unless anyone has anything they want to throw in. We're doing the questions. Brilliant. So the first one is already up. It is from Boozy the Clown. Sony are dead. PlayStation got no games. Discuss the irony inferred by this statement. Irony is a bit too advanced for me. So, Luke, this one's for you.
I don't know what am I supposed to say? How do I respond to such a strong statement?
It's pretty strong.
They're all dead. They're all dead. None of them have got games apart from Xbox this 1 year.
Do you know what I find really weird? Like, really genuinely don't understand. You still see people console warring between Xbox and PlayStation.
Yes, but
I can't. I'm a hypocrite because I used to fucking marinade in that all day long, but I've evolved, you know. But yeah, still seeing it is. You know, the one that I like are the ones who are centric and they go, "Oh, I'm pro Xbox, but I'm going to talk about PlayStation." Oh, I'm pro PlayStation, but I'm going to talk about Xbox. All right.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I think the thing that always gets me is that, and this kind of goes into maybe the slight kernel of not the dead part, but the like no games part. Because when people say that, it just means that like there's not much coming from PlayStation or whoever. The one thing I always find very bizarre about that is that if you're a multi-platform owner, it shouldn't really bother you if one platform is having a lighter year, because invariably the other platforms that you have like fill in all of the gaps. So I never go, oh man, you know what, apart from like 2 games this year, like Nintendo don't have anything. I'm really annoyed by that, because I'm like, well, Xbox and PlayStation do, so I've got plenty to play, plenty of really cool stuff. And this, this year, PlayStation, I mean, they won't be like, because they'll have 2 really high quality games in New and Death Stranding 2, which the latter of which is Game of the Year, obviously. But then even if that's all they put out this year, that's fine, because Xbox have like one of the biggest first party years they're probably ever going to have. So it's not as if, why would that annoy you? Like, why is that important if you are not multiple platforms?
I think, and I think that's the problem, is like when you say about multiple platforms, obviously in the Xbox One, PS4 gen, very digital library based, right? So once you got in bed with one of them, that was it, and some people can't afford to buy all of them, which is fine,
fine, yeah.
But don't talk shit to validate your purchase. You know what I mean? Like everyone can. I was Xbox heavy, like, do you know what I mean? And then I got rid of my Xbox to be primarily PC because it was just fucking sitting there, and even that upset people. Like, it's so tribalistic. But we see it, like, you see it all the time. People trying to downplay or poo-poo, people's purchasing decisions. Like the PS5 Pro come out, and we see people going, you're wasting your money, and it's like, it's fucking my money to waste. Don't worry, I'm not mine personally because I didn't get one, but whoever that person is, or upgrading, whatever it is, GPUs or upgrading monitors or upgrading, and people have to downplay you and go like, you're wasting your money there, mate. Like, don't worry about me. Like, I'll do what I'll do, and it's fine. But as I say, I used to thrive acting that way. But I'm a better person today.
Oh, that's nice.
A little bit.
Our next question is kind of related in a way, I suppose. It's Nate State Games has said, imagine this: in a world where console exclusivity isn't a thing, brackets heading that way, which Xbox IP do you think would perform or sell best on PlayStation and vice versa? And this is it is interesting because they do have obviously a big overlapping audience, but they also have Xbox for the longest time had its reputation as like dude bro console, right, for having all of the shooters and things, and PlayStation had its reputation for having the Japanese RPGs and things like that. So there is some distinction between the audiences there. Are there any particular IP from one or the other that you think would do really well going across?
I think it's weird, right? Because like Xbox always had a big insistence on multiplayer component for the longest time, right? So you would naturally think Halo, Gears of War would do well on the Sony side. Not the recent Halos, you know what I mean? But then on the other side of the coin, and that's what I think is like people need to accept, is that Sony's, single player story narrative, I know like people call them sad dad simulators because again we have to downplay everything, but they're quality, right? And all right, Xbox went out and spent 70 billion, but before those acquisitions were signed, where were they before then? That was where the narrative Xbox have no games come from outside of Halo, Gears and Forza. But I think with that question there, what would do well? I think they'd both do well because they both cater to both audiences in a way. You'd have better, or not better, but you'd have more single player experiences for the Xbox side, and then you'd have more multiplayer experiences for the PlayStation side, and the world would be so beautiful.
So your wild theory is that good games will do well with both audiences?
Yeah, I mean, like obviously the way that Nate sort of shaped the question there is just like, what one, do you think would do best? And I don't think between them, you'd probably say like Spider-Man on the weight of the IP. You know what I mean? In regards to sales, I think they'd all just like Sony I think they'd all do well anyway. They got their games. Forza Horizon, is like a brilliant racer. You got Gears of War, Halo, and then, as I say, on the Sony side, you've got some of the best single player experiences. But to pick one that would outperform anything, I'd probably just lean on Spider-Man, just purely because of the weight of the IP.
It's funny because there's like a lot of people are saying Gears would do well going the other way, and I think it's probably fair to say that Halo probably won't have a massive impact when it goes across. It's going to upset some people that are like that way inclined and precious about things, but not because Halo isn't brilliant, but because Halo today isn't brilliant, right? Whereas Gears of War is on the verge of being brilliant again. It's the stronger IP than the better quality game.
Yeah,
and I'm not downplaying what Halo did well, but we all know that it's not banging in the way that it used to. So that would do well. What I would like to see go to PlayStation, funny seeing the next question there, what I would like to see go to PlayStation to get a little revival is going back in time to Lost Odyssey, because that is one game that didn't get the audience it deserved, to the extent that Microsoft aren't doing anything with the IP. So to see that go across, there is a large contingent of like Japanese RPG fans that just have never had an opportunity to play that one. So that would be cool to see. Going the other way, any of the good ones will do well because people with Xboxes like good games as well. So, that's kind of how it is for me. Luke, is there anything that stands out for you as something that like the audience may be baying for?
I actually think Halo would do well on PlayStation, just because I don't, as in, let's take the rumored Master Chief Collection as an example, right? Sony themselves don't have any first-person shooters on the market, so it's the one place in their portfolio that they're lacking in. And Halo is obviously not as brilliant as it was under Bungie days, I would argue, and perhaps most would. But having such a substantial IP in terms of what it means to the the Xbox platform go to a PlayStation, and have the collection of those games there, I think that would do very well, because even on word of mouth alone, people would probably be quite interested in it, because of what it represents. And the fact that it's never been on the platform. If Sea of Thieves can sell like 1 million copies ish, I don't see any reason why Halo can't do quite well on that platform. And then the other way, I tend to agree with Darge. Like, I think it's perhaps something like Spider-Man, Uncharted would do really well on Xbox. I think because that's kind of the place that your big third-person action adventure games that Microsoft don't have a lot of that in their portfolio, and that's something where people would be, both of those things on the IP strength alone, I think would do well on Xbox. So, but there's lots of as people have said, as you guys have said, Gears would do well on PlayStation. I think Forza would do well on PlayStation, particularly Horizon. Maybe not Motorsport, but I think Horizon would.
Yeah,
I think that. Yeah, I was just going to say, I think this discussion has been really good, like, because, like we spoke earlier about people having to poo-poo other people's, platform of choice and this, that, and the other, but Xbox and PlayStation deliver quality titles. Admittedly, Xbox were a bit light for a point, but, like I say, the games that Xbox have, PlayStation would have them. You know what I mean? Enjoy as they are getting them now. You know what I mean? And they're not crying about it. They ain't saying, no, we don't want them games, thank you. They want them games. And it's the same thing on the other side. Obviously Xbox have spent and invested a lot of money, and you're getting an Indiana Jones now. You know what I mean? And you're getting a Hellblade too, and this, that, and the other with regards to first party offerings. But yeah, I just think they're both at what they deliver. They're both great at it, and I think both fan bases, if they were crisscrossing over, although they might on Twitter go, no, I think deep down they're games that they'd want,
Fair. Yeah. The next question. So I mentioned Lost Odyssey there. So Tom has asked, is anyone of you planning to play the last great RPG of Hironobu Sakaguchi that released last month on Steam and all of the other platforms as well? Fantasian Neo Dimension. and I absolutely am. Yes, it's really high on my list of things to get back to from 2024 because I've loved many of his games. So yes, I will be playing that. What about you, Luke?
Already played it.
Have you?
Oh,
Yeah, well, I played Fantasian, not this.
Oh, the
version.
phone.
This is
I
like,
didn't know these were the
on iPad.
same. Yeah, I didn't know. Is this like a remake or a remaster of that? Is it the phone game?
I'm not sure what this is. I think it's the original. I think it's the original game, but like a expanded version of that. And obviously, kind of higher asset quality, etc., because it's coming to more powerful platforms. I think that's what it is. I don't think it's a sequel to Fantasian, which released on Apple Arcade, but it's rather a console-y PC version of that game, but just expanded. But
it's funny. Go on.
No, yeah, but I played Fantasian and it was great. It's really good.
Because I was like a fan of Lost Odyssey and all the rest of it. That game being an Apple exclusive was something that it was the one thing that made me want to play a game on a phone, and it happened to not be on the phone that I had, so I couldn't. And then when this one was announced, they didn't actually reference it being connected to Fantasian. Obviously, the name is the connection, but they never mentioned that it was a game that people loved, a game that people played, a game that you should have heard of. It was just announced as a new thing, and I didn't make the connection at all because it's quite a long period of time between these things. But yeah, I'm definitely going to play it. I really want to play it. I'm quite looking forward to it. There's a slew of games that I want to play from 2024 still, so that one is just quite high on my list. Demo, yeah, I know there's a demo, but it's one of those things where if I know that I want a game, then I don't care for the demo, and I know that I want that game, so I will pick it up. Gunstar 75 smells nice, which is always good to hear. Darge, I'm assuming you have no interest in this one, right?
I didn't know about it, if I'm being honest, but I've just looked up the Steam page and I'm seeing it. If Satama's a fan of it, I mean, I'll follow that boy into a burning office building at a minute, you know, so I might have to check it out on Satama say so. Mind you, I'll wait until I finish my side, yeah. I might have a deep resentment for that boy by the end of that game. So we'll see how my side goes first.
Mm-hmm.
But you guys are excited for it. That's the main thing.
Right. Gaming with Passion, Demon Hunter has asked, what does the C button stand for? A lot of things start with C. What is it? So this is the Switch 2. I haven't actually paid that close attention to it. Whereabouts on the device is the C button?
It's on one of the Joy-Cons. I don't know where. I think it is anyway. It's one of them.
And it's an extra button. Does it look like you're supposed to use it frequently? Because it could be, like Chronic has just said in there, it could stand for capture, the equivalent of the share button that other things have. Very, very sensible inclusion on a controller because it's free viral marketing when people use those things. So,
yeah, I think it's I was going to say, I think it's either just the new capture button, because they had a capture button on the Switch. It was just the little
I thought they did.
camera-y, framey thing. So it's either an expanded version of that or it's something weirdly Nintendo. So I'm going to guess, like, if it's not the capture button repurposed, it'll be some sort of Splatoon 3-esque hub that you can load into, like a PlayStation Home. But you've got, your Mii's, your advanced Switch 2 Mii's, and you can do stuff in it, something like that.
I really want the Mii's to stay exactly the same because I really like that.
Yeah, just
no
visual update at all, just exactly as they were.
No facial expression.
Mine's brilliant. He looks so grumpy and tired. Like, of all the avatar creators in all the world, you get these really sophisticated ones with a million sliders and you can change the left nostril flare and all the rest of it. And then I get on the Mii and I'm like, oh, bags under the eyes, grumpy face, angry eyebrows. Oh, I've captured myself. It's perfect. So yeah, I don't want to change that. And I hope that the C button is the chat button and you hold it down and your Mii just makes little angry gestures. And that'll be their equivalent to an online infrastructure. You can just hold that down. Probably I'm going with capture is the most likely, or it's the the C button from the N64. Because they used to have a C button back then. It was the 4 yellow ones.
What did that do? Back then?
It was the equivalent of a right analog stick, because that controller only had the one, didn't it? So they
bring that back. Maybe the right analog just serves as like a fidget spinner now.
That'll be it. That'll be the innovation and gimmick that everybody wants.
Yeah.
Right. Gamsley, what is the panel drinking? Gamsley, I had coffee and ginger beer today. Quite a sensible non-alcoholic evening for myself. What about you, Darge?
I was drinking Red Bull. Yeah. I didn't have time to make a tea.
You did.
Well, I kind of did, and then I didn't. So, I'll survive.
You will. It's your favourite anyway. It's always Red
Bull. Has Luke got one of his little sexy coffees with one of them little leaves on the top?
I've really pushed the boat out, so I'm actually drinking bottled water here. And
a guy!
I actually have not had a drink this entire podcast, so thank you, Gamsley, for reminding me to be hydrated.
Hydrate yourself, son.
Everybody stop and watch.
Over.
More than that, Luke. That's going to do nothing for you.
No, that's enough. That's enough.
You feel like
OnlyFans content, that.
Yeah, you have to pay for extra.
Where you tip it over your head.
No, not the. Right, Gaming with Passion. What franchises do you enjoy and would want to see made into live service games? For you, it would be Tony Hawk. It'd be great to have a Tony Hawk game that is regularly updated with new stuff. Yeah, you'd love to throw some cash at some new skateboard paint and shit, new trousers and shit. Live service games, I don't hate them all, but I'm gonna let Luke answer while I try and think of a game that would actually really suit a live service.
Thanks. I do, generally none. Like unless it's meant to be a live service game, I don't really like live service games. So probably none. The only one I would have, ironically enough, been quite interested in is the. Well, that's one. But I feel like that's kind of, by its nature, that's a live service. I mean, it was a multiplayer game, so it could have been back in the day if that the concept of live service existed. So I won't count that one. The Factions game, I would have actually been very interested in because I love The Last of Us. I love the universe of The Last of Us. The world lends itself to having some service game in it. And it would have been developed by Naughty Dog, who obviously make very, very high quality, interesting games to me. So I probably would have been interested because the vision I had of that was just The Division, but Last of Us. And that sounds great to me. And that might have been what it was. So that would have been the only one I would have gone, oh yeah, that would have been cool as a live service. But everything else, unless it's made to be a live service, I wouldn't want something to be made into a live service.
By you, Darge?
Probably Pro Evo Soccer 4.
It already is. What's it called now?
It's
eFootball.
eFootball.
No. We don't talk about
exactly
that.
What you're asking for.
Pro Evo 456. Well, I don't know. Like when these live service ones come about, I might jump in them for a bit, and then I think, is there a game that I really want? And I can't. And then Luke said about The Division, and I really enjoyed The Division. And then it made me think maybe like a Gears of War live service, even though I don't think many people would like that, but sort of that open world part of that universe where you have tasks and things like that to do. All in all, live service don't really do it for me now so much, That's a boring answer.
See, I don't like microtransactions and I don't like live service when it's a greedy corporate push in that direction. But I do like some of my favorite games ever have been MMORPGs that are like the original live service game. And the concept of having a game that's going to get content almost forever and obviously requires feeding money. I'm okay with that, but it needs to be. It's almost never works when it's a man in a suit at the top of a company saying this needs to make more money forever. Go and bend it to my will.
Yeah,
bend this IP to my will and make it it a live service. So.
Like sometimes you just got to know when enough's enough. Like, you know what I mean? But I know that what you're saying there is they want them to continue for the fucking rest of time, right? But like, I always think of the Division, and I really enjoyed what I experienced, especially 2, because I came in at 2, which was based in Washington, and then the DLC was back in New York. And it just kept me coming back. Obviously, you're looting for the gear, and you know, you're getting powerful armor and stuff like that, and then you're doing like certain missions. And I really liked the Division. You know, you sound about Ubisoft, in a bit of a 2 and 8 at the minute, and looking at like being taken over. But I really need a Division 3 at this point. I don't know if it's rumored to be coming or
it's confirmed.
I haven't. They've confirmed it now. When
massive working. They said that would be the next project after
Outlaws.
Yeah.
Oh well, that's hopefully they get the fucking time to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the Division, for me personally, how I play, I think it's a great live service game.
I've thought of the one that I've been saying this for like 20 odd years that I do want as a live service game, and that's Fable. Ever since they introduced, not as a replacement for Fable, but I've always wanted an MMORPG that has Fable character development.
Okay, fine. I thought you were going to talk about Legends.
I was definitely
Legends.
not going to talk about Legends. I mean, like a proper, an MMORPG that lets you, it gives you a little bit more customization of your starting characters than a baseline Fable ever has done. But that they have that style of your play as your character. And ideally, like I wouldn't necessarily want that to be the Fable IP, but it would work as well because the world would lend itself to that if necessary. That's fine. So that is the one. That's my answer.
Yeah, Fable could really work now. You got me a little bit excited about the prospect of Fable. Like at the end game, you know, once you finish the campaign, like the world's opened out and
you could do.
Fuck you, Asa. If it don't happen now, that's going to wind me up.
It's going to wind me up if it does happen because they'll do it wrong.
Put your CV into Playground Games, Asa. Give them that idea.
I'm sure they've already had that idea.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. Especially after Horizons and that.
But I'll go in and make sure they do it right. Yeah, why not?
Nice.
Are there any more? There are. Would you play, Scamsley, would you play a God of War in the style of a Diablo game? I'd rather they didn't do that, but yes. Like God of War, the original ones weren't that far off of a Diablo game anyway, in some capacity. Obviously, you could jump, so they were separate in that sense, but you could quite easily translate God of War into a Diablo game. What you couldn't translate it to, in my opinion, is the live service side. You could do a one and done God of War Diablo style game, but live service where you're making your own characters or something, I don't know. We've talked about the God of War live service thing enough already. So generally though, Kratos isometric. It's worked before, right?
Yeah. What about a Kratos? Well, it'd effectively be a fucking rip-off, wouldn't it? If they did it like in the style of Hades. You know, like a roguelike, you know. It won't happen though. Sony will cancel it.
They did do that.
I hated that. They didn't do that. Don't compare that to Hades.
Yeah, well, no, it's not. It's not like Hades, but they did a roguelike. They did God of War Valhalla.
It was funny because you had Assassin's Creed Valhalla Ragnarok and God of War Ragnarok Valhalla.
Yeah. But Valhalla was really, really good. Really good. Not Hades. It's not like that, but it was a roguelike and it was very, very, very well done.
I really didn't like it.
Well.
Really didn't like it.
Yeah, well, let's move on, Asa. We don't need to have this discussion.
This is fair. Next question, if there are any more questions. Really didn't like it.
I bet.
Did you just call me a hobbit?
I said, stop it.
Oh, okay, that's
Wrong.
fine. Where is the flat cap, Darge?
Baseball cap tonight. Got a couple of digs in my head from work there. You know what I mean? It's sad. It's sad going bold. I don't rate it or advise it for anyone. You can avoid it. Or bleeding.
What did you hit your head on when you're on a roof already? Did you
Scaffolds.
fall off? Scaffold.
Scaffolds and aircraft. I'm so tall.
I can see it. Next
Dodging
one.
an Airbus.
Craig, Luke wouldn't call me a knobhead like he should, but
No, not over that.
That's a bit heavy, that.
Yeah.
Right. If you could clear your minds and play a game for the first time, what would that game be? I hear a lot of people say that about Elden Ring, but not for me. Go for. You got an answer, Luke?
There's many games. There's a lot. Off the top of my head, Outer Wilds, that would probably be the one I'd love to re-experience for the first time again. Soma, Inside, I'd love to play that again for the first time. There's too many. If I'll pick one, which will be Outer Wilds.
Okay, fair. Darge?
Evo. No, I think I'd say BioShock. I mean, I've probably played like as great as a story as it is for me. It's poignant because it was like one of the first proper story games of, I say recent times. It was like the 360, wasn't it? And but it made me appreciate stories in games a little bit more, you know, and the storytelling, and it sort of scratched the itch with me that I ended up going off and obviously fell into the Call of Duty, FIFA crap and stuff like that. But I've got back recently to playing games for the stories that they tell. You know what I mean? So I could sit here and say like mouthwashing because obviously with regards to my personal journeys and things like that, there's some storytelling in that game, or like Little Misfortune. These simple little games that if you watch their gameplay and you go, that looks shit, but it's the story that you're experiencing a story interactively, you know. But one that all the chat probably know, and that I'd say BioShock. I mean, that just the game, the world, the story, the ending, just everything is just a fucking masterpiece. So, yeah, having that, would you kindly experience again?
Oh yeah, that was a good moment.
So yeah, yeah. Yeah, and say that I can't say the Souls as well. Like Elden Ring, obviously, I'm right at the end now, but Elden Ring it'll be such a memory for me forever to get through it. But I'm not going to say it because someone in the chat go, "Oh, you ain't beat it yet." But yeah, Elden Ring's been a journey for sure.
Rep had an incredible one which I totally forgot about, which is Knights of the Old Republic. I'd love to experience that again. Particularly,
I still can experience that for the first time. I should.
Oh yeah, you wait for that remake coming out.
Yeah,
2062.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, indeed. I was looking forward to that once upon a time. I would like to wipe my mind of all of them and just play a video game for the first time because video games just fucking awesome.
Yeah,
they're all right. Yeah,
they're all right. They're all right.
They're all right.
So our next question is already up. It is from Boozy the Clown. Is Elon Musk a elite gamer? I could not care less about the Elon Musk Asmongold stuff that Twitter is trying to force down my throat. I don't know why I have to see these things. Anybody have any thoughts on that little topic?
I haven't seen or paid much attention.
Paid someone to boost a Path of Exile account or something like that and had an argument with Asmongold about something.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What, a multi-billionaire paid for something?
Yeah, indeed.
Ooh. Oh, imagine. Yeah, I don't. Twitter's like, you know, when you go to the zoo and you see like the animals, like sometimes like the monkeys or that throwing their own shit at each other. That's kind of how I treat Twitter these days. I just, you know, look for a minute and then walk off.
I don't know. You got to keep watching though, haven't you?
sometimes you're just a bit curious, you know. Sometimes you're a little bit like, what's going to happen here?
Yeah.
And then you realise what you're actually watching is just fucking shit. And then you close the app.
Yeah, and it's weird because like there might be some good stuff at that zoo, but they don't let you see it. Just insist on showing you the shit over and over and over.
The really shit zoo is so shit. I'm gutted Tom ain't here tonight as well. Tom's had one fucking job to be here and ask us the question, but we can't do it. We can't do it unless Tom asks us what's not to like. I've got his number. I'm gonna text him, tell him he's an arsehole. Ruin the show.
No, you'd be nice to Tom. I like Tom. We're going to do...
I'm joking.
You have just reminded me, though, the community games is on tomorrow, but we are going to shift the slot around, and that is going to move over to a Friday. You reminded me because Tom was one of the many people that said that Friday would work better for them. So that will happen. We've got... Nini has asked, 5th game at the Dev Direct predictions. I'm hoping this is a yes-no question, and I'm going to say yes.
Oh yeah, will there be a 5th game? Yeah, I think there's been murmurings, hasn't there, that there's.
I don't know.
Obviously, there's murmurings that there's the 4th game, which we know there is a 4th game. We don't know what the game is, and there's murmurings that maybe there's another game, a 5th game. I don't know, but yes, let's say yes.
Yeah, you took the easy way out as well. Darge, you don't get it. We've all taken the easy way out. What's the 5th game? You can have it if you want.
Fuck knows. If you've got no, if only. Well, obviously that Expedition 33 is there, third party wise. Maybe this is where they announce that Oblivion remake. And the Gears collection or something.
Maybe.
I feel a little bad for them because, like,
I feel like Final Fantasy. They just quickly, Asa. I feel like didn't they have Square Enix before one of these for that Trails of Mana? Was that Square?
Yeah.
So they're like, oh, we're in bed with Square, like, and you know. It seems like the place, right, where you can go, oh, and a surprise message from fucking matey. And then he goes, oh, Final Fantasy roadmap for Xbox.
It's one of those things where I feel a bit sorry for them because they did something that they should never do. And they did something nice one year where they had an extra game. They had, what's his face, Hi-Fi Rush. And they had, the Dev Direct was all laid out and we knew what games were going to be there. And then they had this surprise entry. And the consequence of doing something as a surprise entry is that is the expectation every year going forwards. So
but I mean, on the rumor last week that we spoke about with the 10 games, right? You know, virtually a game a month, and the Dev Direct's coming at the end of January. So maybe there is a shadow drop this time. I'm not saying get your hopes up for it, but if that rumor's true with the amount of games, obviously you've got Towerborn that you know we know people who've been playing that for a while. You know, maybe they just go, here's Towerbone, it's there now, get on.
Fair chance, because people have speculated that one will be the shadow drop at Dev Direct last year. Maybe it's time.
Yeah, well, yeah, they've had another year, haven't they? So, yeah, who knows with Xbox, you know, they've clearly the acquisitions and the investments that they've made are starting to bear fruit now, so we can all go into every event of theirs with questions. And hopefully surprises. But yeah.
I'm hoping for Brute Force 2.
Yes.
That's the 5th game.
I don't think it'll happen.
You know,
you got to be like that, Darge.
I love you too much. I don't want to leave you for another 5 days, getting your hopes up, and then texting me in a bad way. Like I can't.
Let me down gently now, and then I'll be.
You know what I'm like. Love and tolerance. I preach love and tolerance to all. I can't let that. I can't let you go off like a fickle child for the rest of the week.
That's fair.
Well, there we go. Brute Force confirmed for Dev Direct this coming week. We're going to have plenty to talk about on next week's show, aren't we? So that'll be nice and easy as well. Yeah, this one's been nice and easy. Thanks, Darge. Thanks, Luke, for making it nice and easy, and everyone that's come and talked to us and been nice about things. We have reached the end, though. So let's run through that. Darge, say what you want to say.
Right. Yeah, thanks to everyone who stopped by, chatted away in the chat, dropped a load of questions. It was nice tonight. It was quite a lot of questions, varying ones as well. You know, if you're new here, obviously Asa mentioned the Discord earlier. I think the link could be somewhere in the YouTube channel. Get over there, join the conversation. Yeah, thanks Asa for having me. Looking forward to next week. You know, because it's weird, isn't it? Like when we did our first one back and we were sort of seeing out 2024. Sometimes it's a bit slow, you know, and a bit quiet, and it seems like it's flying at the minute, you know. So yeah, looking forward to next week with you two. Yeah, that's it. I'd say you come follow me on Twitter, but I probably won't be on there much anyway. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, Discord's the place. That's the place for the good conversations. Luke,
Yeah.
what are you up to?
Nothing much at the moment. So just here and on the Discord. I echo exactly what Darge said. Go on the Discord. That's where really good things happen and good people are, and it's a lot better than a fucking monkey shit covered zoo.
Yeah, the shit zoo.
Yeah.
Good, yeah. I mean, me too. I enjoy it there. That's where I spend most of my time talking. So come along, talk to us there. Catch us here next week. We've also got more of the streaming, the split screen games, more of the community games. Lots of things coming up. Lots of stuff tidying up and refining the little channel and community things. So there is a lot of work going into it. Thank you very much. We'll see you next time.
It is.